Hey everyone, Ashley Mailloux here with Mike Beer, looking at the Cary Grant Stakes this Saturday at Del Mar, race number 8, a 7 furlong event featuring those Cal-bred or Cal-sired runners. And Mike, looking at maybe the big name in here, the Chosen Brown really sticks out in this field. But overall, I think outside of that, a pretty evenly matched bunch.
Yeah, if you can get past the horse who's likely to be heavily favored in here, it's actually a really interesting race. It does kind of feel like, though, if the Chosen Brawn shows up here off of the Breeders' Cup Sprint just a couple of weeks ago, if he shows up and runs his good race, they're gonna have a really hard time beating him.
He'll have 8 other rivals in this field of 9. We'll take a look at the time form U.S. pace projections here. And a little interesting to see the pace here projected the 1, 6, and the 8 go. And I think looking off of most recent efforts makes a lot of sense. Big City Lights has some early foot. So does Moose Mitchell, who finally was able to get a win after having that win streak snapped in his prior efforts. But you can see here the closer looks to be maybe the number 3, None Above the Law, who certainly leaves work to be done late.
Yeah, we'll see how this pace goes. I won't argue too hard with it. Maybe the favors front runners thing I could maybe, take some exception with in here. I won't be surprised when the 1 makes the lead, but the 6 is fast enough to get there. Even the Chosen Brawn is fast enough to be part of this pace if they wanted to be. They may not want him to be, but he certainly could be.
Yeah, you can see in the past he has been forwardly placed, but in his last couple, he's shown that ability to close from off of it. So at least they'll have options with the likely favorite in the Cary Grant. But we'll kick things off with the horse on the rail, the number 1, Principe Carlo, who it's been a while since he's found the winner's circle. It seemed like, 2022 was certainly his year. But Mike, we really haven't seen him much so far in 2023.
Yeah, it's a real issue for him, I think, so far this year. Only 2 starts as a 7-year-old, and neither one of them did he run very well in those races. So that's a problem. He's obviously got races on the go back that would give him a real chance in here, especially if that pace projector's right and he can make the lead and not have to go fast. I just felt like he would be under pressure even if he does make the lead, and he's got something to prove now.
It certainly does, and it's kind of been the thing that's been against him in his last 2. He's had that pace pressure early on, and he surrendered late. That's going 6, 6.5. Now has to stretch out to 7 ace. To his outside's the number 2, Trip to Spain, who's going to get tested for class, but also Mike is going to have to prove himself again on the dirt. It's been a little bit since we've seen him on the main track.
Yeah, he won his most recent start on dirt, but that was over a year ago, and he only earned a 66 buyer in doing so. He's just one of the horses in here who just looks like he's in way over his head.
His most recent buyers, they've been, I would say, fairly decent in the 80s, the low 80 range, but totally different surface. The number 3, None Above the Law, we saw he had the LP flag for the time form U.S. pace projections coming out of a 3rd place finish in the California flag. He's been kind of all over the place, Mike. He's gone really long on the turf and now most recently sprinting.
They tried everything with this horse. They go long on turf, they go long on dirt, they sprint him on both surfaces. It seems like they just feel like he can do anything, and maybe they're right. His overall form is actually pretty good. I don't think he's impossible in this race. He's run some races in the past that would give him a real chance in here. It just feels like he's going to need to catch maybe a break or 2 to come out on top.
And a positive thing to note, maybe Flavien Prat booked to ride him. It's been a long time since they have teamed up. They actually teamed up last year in the addition of the Cary Grant. To his outside, the number 4, Lovesick Blues. This is a 5-year-old son of Grayson who will take a look at his most recent effort. I thought it was a decent effort, Mike. All in all, was pretty far back early on. Is going to close nicely to finish 3rd here, beaten by just over a length.
Yeah, he runs okay in this race. The pace projector that we looked at earlier, if that turns out to be correct, it's not going to help this horse. But maybe they'll go a little bit faster here and give him a little bit of a better chance. This horse is okay, and if he catches the right setup, maybe he can get a piece of this. I found it hard to make a strong case for him to come out on top in this race, though.
And we're talking about this pace here on October 9th, 43-1 to the half there, and still was unable to get the job done, but was closing quite nicely. Now, to this outside, the number 5, Fast Draw Money. It's one of the Jeff Mullins barn. We'll take a look at that most recent effort at Los Malamitos Racecourse in the E.B. Johnston. It's going to come up second best here behind Kings River Knight, who comes back to win next time out. But all in all, these 2 are clear of the rest of the field.
Yeah, they leave the rest of this field far behind. The horse, he just can't run down the odds-on favorite in this race. Kings River Knight just seems like all he does is win, especially lately. Good performance from this horse, though. Just second off the long layoff. He looked really good, I thought, winning in his first start back. He made the lead that day, but based on his prior races, they don't need to ride him up close to the pace. He can sit a little bit and still make a run. And I actually like him cutting back a little bit for this race. He only sprinted his first 2 starts of his career. I thought he ran really well. And both of those starts, including the Golden State Juvenile, this distance, this track, second career start, I mean, he's hooked up with Slow Down Andy for much of that race and just got beat at the end. Slow Down Andy's turned out to be a really nice horse.
And you mentioned a very long layoff. We're talking well over a year, and I think it's a positive sign to see this one come back with two career best buyers, an 88 and more recently a 95. I mean, to me, all systems look to be trending in the right direction for this 4-year-old son of Monies. Now to his outsides, number 6, Big City Lights. It's part of the Richard Mandela barn. Just came up a little bit short, but Mike, it's kind of been the key with him. That's been the same story 3 starts in a row.
Chosen Ron's had his number the last 3 times they faced, but at least in the most recent one, and it was a while ago, but this horse made it very close in that race. He was getting to the Chosen Ron at the end of that start, and he just missed at the end. That was a pretty good performance. He's got a long layoff to overcome here, and he's got to do it going 7 furlongs. I guess the good news for him is he romped as a first-time starter, and he came back off of a really long layoff here last August, and he won easily again. So you know that he can get ready off of workouts.
And he looks like he's been just handled very carefully by the Richard Mandela barn with those 6 starts, 3 wins, and 3 seconds. Now, we said his name a bunch, the Chosen Ron. He finally got to me that big breakthrough win that we were hoping to see from him 2 starts back in the Bing Crosby. We'll take a look at the Grade 1 win. You know, he was kind of handled and kept against his fellow Calibreds, but to see him shine on the big stage against a very big field this year, you know, this was kind of the defining moment for his career so far.
Yeah, this is good stuff from him too. He got the Grade 1 win here. He did get a really good trip in this race, and maybe he takes advantage a little bit, but he's got to earn it at the end here. And he's game to get the job done. They ran him in the Breeders' Cup. He deserved a shot in that race, and he just wasn't good enough. But it's not like it was a terrible performance. He's just way the horse to beat in this kind of a race. He's not going to be compromised by pace. 7 furlongs isn't really an issue for him, and his good race is probably too good.
And he figures to improve, just making that second start since that victory we just took a look at in the Bing Crosby. To his outsides, the number 8, Moose Mitchell, was able to get that win last time out. And, you know, he is a horse that when he's good, he's great. But I thought last time out, Mike, I actually liked seeing him have to actually work for it because he's had some pretty easy wins in the past.
I agree with you. I like that he got the job done there after having to earn it. To me, he's just most interesting because these connections claimed him for 40 at the end of last year. And for some reason, they tried to make him a turf horse and it didn't work out. When they finally came back to dirt, immediately goes on a winning streak, finally gets another win last time with a solid figure. This horse is pretty good.
We'll wrap up the field here with the number 9, Desmond Doss, one of the Stephen Miotti barn. I think the efforts the last 2, they've been okay. Would certainly need to step up here against this group, but in terms of trip, maybe could get the right setup.
Yeah, he's another horse who, you know, he's rock solid Calbred. He's got some stakes wins in his past. The 7 furlong distance doesn't seem like it's going to be a real issue for him. It just maybe feels like he's landed in a pretty tough running of this race.
So I have to know, did you try to beat the Chosen Ron here, or are you going to go with the favorite?
I'm going to take one little shot against him here. I know he's way the horse to beat in this spot, and his good race will probably just get the job done. I'm a huge fan of Fast Draw Munnings. I really like the way he's come back from that long layoff, and I like him cutting back to sprint in this race.
Yeah, I was going to point that out. I think that's a great point when you were talking about him. The 7 ace might really hit him at the right spot. He's just making that 3rd start off the long layoff. So I think he's a logical one to try to beat the Chosen Ron. I don't have the guts to do so. I just think looking at what he's been able to do the last several years of his career, he's just been tremendous. And I respect that the connections did take a shot at the Breeders' Cup Sprint, but he was simply overmatched. So I think he's against his friends. So for me, I go 7, 6, 5, 4. And Mike's going to go with the number 5, Fast Draw Munnings, and make that 5, 7, 6, 8 in this year's edition of the Cary Grant. Good luck.